Hello everyone, I'm Mayar Alfares, and today I'll present our work, Gaze3P, Gaze-based prediction of user perceived privacy, conducted together with Pascal Reisert, Ralf Küsters, and Andreas from the University of Stuttgart. Privacy is a highly subjective concept and perceived variably by different individuals. Previous research on quantifying user-perceived privacy has primarily relied on explicit user feedback, such as questionnaires, which has been shown to not align well with user satisfaction, especially since user judgment dynamically changes depending on context, behavior, or knowledge. In addition, designing user-aligned privacy mechanisms or optimizing the parameters of privacy-preserving techniques remains quite challenging and insufficiently explored. Hence, we wanted to answer, can human eye gaze be used as an implicit and dynamic indicator of user-perceived privacy? Spoiler alert, yes, it can. So we recruited 100 participants who looked into 1,000 different stimuli and selected how private the information was on a scale from 1 to 7, 1 being very private, 7 being not private at all. We then passed their gaze data to AI models to predict these levels, and finally use these predictions to personalize privacy-preserving techniques according to the user's perceptions. So overall, as the user interacts with a new stimuli, their gaze behavior adapts, and our approach continuously adapts itself and the protocols accordingly. So, when analyzing this data, we found out that the same attributes, such as car's license plate on the top left, can be anywhere from very private to not private at all, depending on the user's perception. We also detected a significant social influence. So participants stimuli that are more closely associated with or frequently encountered within their social background, probably due to their personal significance. There are also differences in inter and intra-user variations. So for example, here on the top right, each row corresponds to a different participant, where red dots depict the areas that participants attended to the most, so where they fixated their gaze the most. So the user-selected privacy levels, L, are consistent for each participant, but different across participants. So for example, the political opinion attribute here is private, so L between 1 and 2, the private levels, for one user, the first row, and not private for the second one, so L between 4 and 6, the safe levels. The gaze fixations are also denser on the private regions of interest, so for example, on faces or politicians for the private levels. We then also studied the learning effects. So here, for instance, these examples belong to the same participants on images of two different attributes, so driver license and political opinion, sampled from the first and last 5 stimuli. So when a specific attribute is presented, for example, in the first 5 stimuli, and then repeated multiple times, it increases the participant's familiarity with that attribute through repeated exposure. Hence, the number of fixations, response time, and privacy sensitivity decrease. Then we wanted to know, can machine learning models predict privacy perceptions solely from gaze, so that we can run such models under the hoods with different users and stimuli in the future? And again, the answer was yes. So with very simple machine learning models, such as decision trees, SVMs, and so on, we predicted the binary perception, so whether a stimuli is private or not, how private it is from 1 to 7, and we also found out that when adding context, the prediction accuracy increases, which is known as contextual privacy. Also, using gaze, we were able to predict user-specific attributes, so beyond the stimuli-based ones. So for instance, we were able to know whether the user is a privacy expert or not. However, we could not identify users, likely because we ran our experiments in simulations, so we did not collect real personal data, and therefore the information lacked genuine emotional or personal attachment needed for identification. Finally, we checked, can gaze-based predictions of perceived privacy be integrated into privacy-preserving frameworks, such as differential privacy, to optimize utility while aligning with user expectations? Again, the answer was yes. So we ran state-of-the-art personalized differential privacy protocols for data analysis and learning, and found out that all our gaze-based epsilon values outperformed static baselines that uses only one epsilon value, as well as random baselines that are not gaze-informed, and our results get closer to the plain text accuracy. Hence, we can add more noise to private attributes and less noise to the less private ones. So overall, we were able to predict privacy perception implicitly, so without the user feedback, and dynamically as the stimuli changes solely from gaze data. And we further found out that jointly modeling perceived privacy and formal guarantees improves data utility while aligning with user expectations. Thank you.